Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. Now, if Dr. Will and myself, we usually have this meeting at Panera or someplace or Triple X, wherever it may be. We're so long overdue getting caught up. We're going to try not to get into too much minutia today. We're going to talk broad stroke stuff. Dr. Will Miller, welcome to the show.
It's always a delight to be here. I'm a big fan of Gold and Black and Purdue.
Yeah, so we're glad to have you here. We want to thank our sponsors, one of them being Triple X. On the hill, but on the level, of Purdue tradition since 1929. Our best, Greg and Carrie and John Basham. Will knows John Basham. Everybody knows John Basham, and if you know John Basham, you love him. He's a one-of-a-kind character and a great sponsor of our show. He also knows Trent Johnson too, State Farm agent Trent Johnson.
My buddy.
Been a great friend of the show, and at Hilton Garden Inn when tomorrow's a big day. Stay at HGI tonight. All right, now, I love talking sports with you because you look at it from a psychological, social event. You're a huge, and we're going to get into why Purdue women's basketball is near and dear to your heart. But let's talk, Purdue fans went through a lot when Jeff Brom decided that they were on the precipice of will he stay or will he go? It's kind of the old Clash song. The psychology of fans. I mean, how do you? Why do we care so much?
This is real shrink talk. It's an abandonment issue.
Which
it really is. And head coaches really take a fatherly role. They take a parental role. Like they're in charge. I mean, certainly their parental role with the kids. They're the athletes who they have. But for all of us, I mean, it's heartbreaking. People were devastated at just the thought that he would leave. We hate that. I take the broader view. I'm like a social psychologist.
Yeah.
And, sports, of course, for decades has been a glue in the society through television, through live experiences, etc. But more than ever, it's really what helps us feel attached to our community and to our school. And when someone, a key person, like whether it's a coach or a player, is toying with the idea of leaving, it's grief and loss.
Yeah.
It's no small thing.
But he stayed.
Oh, heavenly day. He stayed. And,
he did.
And he stayed. And you know what? For all of the angst and the challenges that, say, Purdue football has been through with, a couple of coaching changes and people wanting it to succeed and wanting it to take off, and then Coach Brown comes, and really there's maybe more profound hope than there has been in a long time. And to be just 1 or 2 years into that building and then to have that be taken away is like, devastating, absolutely devastating. So now, of course, he's got new recruits. All is well in Boilerland.
Yeah. The phenomenon of Rondale Moore and, the sound, I always talk about the sound that you hear in the stadium when he touches the ball, but also that effect on why people want to relate. You're cheering for this guy that's about 18 years old, and he's just unbelievable to watch. But your thoughts about that? And
he's a joy to watch, and of course his moves are he's just like he's covered with oil or something.
Yeah.
He cannot be tackled. And what's really interesting is he continued to be that even several games in when the opponents were looking at tape, looking at what he could do, and they still couldn't do it. So everyone's really excited about next year with him coming in.
And he gets smacked around a little bit, to say the least. And that is.
But when that first time I saw him score a touchdown, and he goes over and just hands the ball politely to the referee, he won everyone's heart with that. Yeah.
And the phenomenon and the saga of Tyler Trent, and talk about that in terms of, again, from a broad stroke perspective of not only what the impact it had at Purdue, but also the up and down impact. I mean, it was a difficult story because we knew how it was going to end, but it was also one of unbelievable, empowerment, enlightenment, all those kind of things.
We don't like to believe that we're going to be courageous when we face, how many of us, there's not a person out there listening who hasn't had the experience, the daunting experience where all of a sudden, boom, the sword falls on someone you love and they get an illness or something like that. And how do you face that? And this young man, and I spoke at the cancer events, a couple of the cancer events, and this young man who faced life and the end of his life with such courage and affected everybody, because there's not a person who was taken by him who can't see their own story in this. And so he was a well earned icon.
Yeah, I think the first time that I actually met him was when you hosted the cancer luncheon out at McGraw's, and unbelievable, almost a mystical way of talking and being.
Yeah.
He was definitely definitely
More than
had
the
that.
sum of his parts.
Yeah.
He was wise beyond his years.
Yeah.
He really was. Yeah.
Well, we wanted to talk about a big event that you're going to bring to the Lafayette community, but also, you're obviously a Purdue icon because you've hosted a lot of Purdue events over the years. But you're a stand-up comedian, which we know. I think you wear more hats than anybody I've ever known in my life. But you wear them well. But tell us about Dr. Will and the fact that you're going to be doing stand-up on Sunday, February 24th.
At the Long Center at 3 o'clock. I was a stand-up comedian out of the clubs in New York City for 15 years, and then I sort of disappeared into corporate speaking.
Yeah.
So people never heard of me again, and so I was kind of cheer on the sales team of companies. And I'm on the Bob and Tom show, and the Bob and Tom people said, you really need to get back out and get back into just stand-up, and so I'm doing that. Simultaneously, my wife, Sally, retired West Lafayette School principal, became involved, inspired by our grandson, Henry Dukes, who has cerebral palsy, and he works with the Purdue women's basketball team.
Yeah.
And he's just a great kid. And his life is fine with his parents, but it's really brought to the attention that at Purdue, anyone who is anyone in athletics knows this. Everyone in athletics, Gold and Black fans, Purdue fans, have come across somebody who, say, was in a sporting accident, football accident or something, who was confined to a wheelchair, but yet mentally they're fine. We really don't have adequate housing for them at Purdue. Isn't that interesting? In other words, there's, they abide by American Disabilities Act, but so we are building a house inspired by Henry called Henry House, and it's basically to build a residence for people in this profile, someone who wants to come to Purdue or live in the West Lafayette community, who needs another level of adaptation for them if they're in a wheelchair. So we're going to do that, and I'm going a comedy show, and it's called Dr. Will Tells the Story of Your Life. And my opening line, I'll tell everyone, is by the end of the show, you will know, because I'm going to tell you as a therapist what's wrong with you.
All
but
right.
First, we're going to talk about what's wrong with me.
Which part is longer?
My part is I give due justice to each side, so it's going to be good.
I want you, and Steve or Gordon, I don't know if you can pull up the picture because we have some images of Henry. There he is, surrounded by the women's basketball team. Talk about that relationship that your grandson. He has been an icon and been a very, very important part of Sharon Versup's program for quite a while.
Sharon and Terry have been just, and the whole staff and those students are, Sally and I, obviously we're big fans of all of the sports at Purdue, but we have really been smitten by the women's basketball team. These young ladies are phenomenal. And the coaches, Coach Versup and the assistant coaches, have just welcomed Henry into a position where he is helping out and he's at the practices, etc. And it's something special with these gifted athletes, no matter what their sport, to come up close and personal to someone whose life turned out in a way that they couldn't do what they do. And all of these young women, and I know it's true with the men too, have a full appreciation of how blessed they are that they got their body and their capacity to do what they do in sports. And it's not lost on them. It's a real character issue, and their character is just overwhelming. It really is. And so we're smitten with the women's basketball team and Sharon and Terry. And
Henry takes an active role. I mean, he does some.
He's at all the practices. He's at all the games, etc. He does some statistics for them, and so he's the #1 fan.
Yeah, and that is a great thing to see because Henry is such a passionate sports fan. I mean, he knows
totally.
his stuff.
Yes.
And that is something that he's has been a part of his life for a very, very long time.
That's right.
Big win for them last night.
Oh, it was
tell me
great.
about what you're seeing. They had a 72-50 win over Illinois. It is a team that you go ups and downs from time to time, but they're on the periphery of a team that can make the NCAA tournament. Got some talent there, and you were talking about
For sure.
Carissa McLaughlin.
Carissa, and so the three sophomores who've come in, and then KT, etc.
Yeah.
But then some of the new transfers who've come in are starting to find their footing and find their way. So I'm thinking they're going to get better and better as the season goes on. And so we were there last night, and it's great. And of course, sitting up in the stands, it's just amazing watching them. Carissa is a marvel. She really is.
Sophomore guard Carissa McLaughlin,
Yes,
she's been
yeah.
phenomenal. Miss Basketball, and she has picked it up another level. It seems
And she
in the
plays
second-
like every single minute of the game.
Yeah.
And she's and their defense is something really special to watch.
Yeah.
It's great. So yeah, we're
Well,
huge
when you
fans.
have Ariana Harris and Dominique Oden, and Harris is one of the best shot blockers in
Yes.
the country, and at her position.
And Henry knows all the stats. He'll tell you. He'll keep you updated on where she is nationally in terms of Purdue history, etc. He loves keeping track of all of the records that they're all breaking.
Yeah, and that is something that, and there's something really intimate about the being a part of being in Mackey Arena and all those things that go with going to women's basketball games. I know you and Sally and your family have enjoyed it. Well, let's look at the specifics of your event. Sunday, February 24th, 3 o'clock.
It's a matinee, which is great, and the tickets are $19, and it all goes toward this initiative to building Henry House. And it's me for an hour. I'm talking, and it's going to be comedy. And someone said maybe it's like a TED Talk. No, it's more funny than that. I like to call it a head talk. It's kind of a head talk. So, but it'll be funny and learning about all of the stuff I've done over the course of my professional career as a therapist. So.
Yeah, you get at longspack.org. You can order tickets as well.
Yep.
And also, if you can't do that, if you can't find that on the site, just email us, and we'll make sure we get you pointed in the right direction from that standpoint. All right, when you look at the opportunity now and in sports, all the things that are going on with from the Super Bowl, this tremendous groundswell of spectator sports, and again, what it means to people. Be a futurist. What do you see down the road? Do you see it continuing to grow? Is this something from a society standpoint that
You and
will
I have
do?
spoken a lot
Yeah.
about this, and the fact of the matter is, over the course of my life, everything I've written about and all the research that I've done, really, I have a concern for how socially isolated Americans are between the fact that we move around so much, and then when we land someplace new. Using so much media and technology, we tend to not develop an extended family where we are. And, it's one thing to have your significant other and your kids, but, in this age, it's almost like a visual. I do this. In this age, we have our significant other, and then with Facebook, we have people out here, but we don't have aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, etc. And the need, the craving that human beings have for being part of a village, for a community. Guess where you experience that? You go into Mackey Arena and you're surrounded by people who are essentially like your family, your extended family. It doesn't matter if you're compatible or you have the same views about this and that. You're bonded and bound together with that. That's what human beings crave, and there's an ocean of research in psychology and health that's really what we need and what we just have to have is connection, more than just one other person.
So, is it reasonable? Is there a good reason why professional men and women yell at referees and yell at players and do that? Is there is that something that we have a penchant for? I mean, that's a normal thing to be doing.
The referee is not your fan. The referee is coming in from the outside, and so they're sort of alien. Now, are you with us? Are you going to join the family, or are you going to tick off the family? I mean, that's what they are. So we are ready to let our feelings be known. You are not behaving like a good family member here in our house.
Yeah.
That's really what that's about. It's like yelling at some interloper or intruder.
Yeah, and that is a common and regular occurrence in Mackey Arena. You've been watched a lot of men's basketball, and obviously the sellouts in Mackey Arena, and that environment there is really, really electric. And Matt Painter's team has got it going on there.
Yeah, and it's always fun because in every sport too, it always seems that one individual athlete rises above to become a galvanizing personality on the court. It doesn't even matter if they're the best player on the field or on the court. There's something about the crowd that just falls in love with them and wants them. I mean, how much I loved watching Biggie Swan. It's and Carson Edwards. It's like, how do you not love that person? When you go to the women's basketball game, all of these players, you really feel connected to them, like you own them. own a sense of them as your family
Yeah,
member.
yeah, and that's a big part of why we watch, as you
Yep.
say. So, all right, well, if you get the chance, it's in a couple of weeks. It's a couple of weeks from Sunday,
Yeah.
February 24th at the
Come on
Long
out.
Center. Come out; it'll be an entertaining show, and we always appreciate Dr. Will coming out and giving us his 2 or 3 cents worth of what he thinks of the world of sport from his perspective, which is always interesting. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break and bring in Brian Newbert, and we'll talk some. Not that we didn't talk serious basketball with Will, but we're going to talk some serious basketball with Brian and break down the Boilermakers as Purdue, 15th ranked Purdue, takes on Nebraska tomorrow night in Mackey Arena, 8:30 p.m. That would be fun as well. Have a great 2-minute break, and we're going to be back at Golden Black Live.
Thank you, bud.